Welcome back, friends. I'm Yvonne Davis, author, astrologer, and life transformation coach. And today I have a very interesting video for you. So, as you know, astrology is part of what's called the occult, and occult simply means hidden. So, in other words, it's part of the great mysteries, the things that are hidden. And so, I am going to take you today into what I believe is the hidden purpose of everything that is happening right now that we are going through. And once I do that, then I want to share with you some ideas that I have about how we can work together as a community to help all of us to be able to um, bring our best selves forward in order to be able to handle the situations that we're in right now and those that may manifest in the future. All right. So let me go ahead and bring up the astrological chart. All right. So this is the U.S. Declaration chart, the Declaration of Independence. It's often called the U.S. Sibley chart for July 4th, 1776. And as I said before, I think that there are differences between the Declaration of Independence chart and the signing of the Constitution, not just because they happen in different years, but also because the energy of the charts are different. And I think that using the Declaration of Independence chart is more accurate because of the energy and what is happening. And it's different for the signing of the Constitution because that chart has a different purpose and a different energy. So it's really, really important to understand that and why it is that I am intentionally and consciously choosing to use this chart. So first thing to understand is that the Declaration of Independence chart is in the center, and then the transits are on the outside. And the first one that I wanted to look at was the new moon in Taurus, which happens on April 22nd. And so some of the things that I want to talk about, first of all, obviously, this is a new moon in Taurus. It's in the 6th house of work and body. And Uranus is conjunct this new moon. Now, this could be seen as troubling in the sense that it will bring disruption, which may be upsetting to some people because of the fact that we've already experienced so much disruption. And so in a sense, we need to prepare. And I know I've been using that word, and I'm finding that it's a bit of a confusing word because people ask, what do you mean by prepare? And I don't think I was even sure what the answer to that question was. And so I was throwing a lot of things out there at people, and some people were resonating with it, others weren't. And I realized that I needed to think much, much more deeply about what I mean when I say we need to prepare. And certainly in my last video, I mentioned that one of the ways we can prepare is by looking at the cycles, which we discover through astrology. And that helps us to know what's coming so we can prepare. But also we need to educate ourselves and we need to work on our own transformation. And that's why I thought it would be a really good idea to use my channel as a platform for all of us to work on our transformation together. And I saw someone left a post in one of my recent videos asking the question, how do you wake up? Um, and that's when I realized that, in some sense, when we're trying to wake up, it's like we're groping in the dark, and we seek leadership, and sometimes that leadership can be really helpful. I mean, there are some incredible spiritual teachers out there. I've relied on them myself to help ground me in this time of disruption. And so there's always that. But also, I think the most important thing is learning how to do that ourselves so that we're not always relying on an external authority. That's why I wanted to create a community here where we're all doing this together. And it's not just me telling you how to prepare or how to evolve yourself, but that we would actually create this together. And I'm thinking about calling it the 9-month gestation project or the gestation project because of the fact that, as you can see, this is this new moon in Taurus happens on April 22nd. And there's a lot more things happening in here besides just the new moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And I'm going to touch on all of those interesting alignments and their meaning. And I will reveal the secret, the hidden purpose of this, of what is happening right now. But I realized that from this new moon, and the other thing about it is not just that it's a new moon, but also that the North Node is at a critical degree here at 0 degrees, right over Venus, and that Pluto stations retrograde at this time and will be at 24 degrees, 59 minutes of Capricorn for an entire week before it technically goes retrograde. That's a long time to be stationary before going retrograde. So it's intensely powerful right now, and we are definitely feeling it, especially with its conjunction to Pluto. So, you know, and there's many, many other things that are happening in this chart that I will show you. But the point is that I realized how profound the timing is, that this chart is April 22nd, and then the Inauguration Day chart is January 20th. Basically 9 months. And 9 months is the human gestation period. And I realized that that's not random. That's definitely a meaningful coincidence. It's not, I wouldn't even call it a coincidence. I mean, to me, it's just, it's not random. It's not a coincidence. It absolutely has meaning. And there's intention behind it too. There's an intelligence behind it. And so that's part of being able to see the hidden purpose of everything that is happening right now, because we have an opportunity to do this personal gestation and community gestation, and you might even say species gestation. But the fact is that not everyone will use this opportunity for that gestation. But I am hoping, well, certainly I'm going to commit myself to it. That's my intention, and I'm committing myself to that. And I want to invite this community to do that with me, to do that work with me, and to create it with me. So basically, I'm going to explain to you what the hidden purpose is of this experience that we're having. And I am hoping that what the kinds of comments that I will receive can be about how we could work together in a community to do this 9-month gestation together, so that by the time we get to Inauguration Day, which will be the next thing I will show you, that we will be ready. And I want to hear all kinds of suggestions about, like, do you want to do live streaming? What time of day would that work best for you? What kind of material do you want to hear, whether it's recorded or whether it's in a live stream? Do you want to do live Zoom meetings? You know, just whatever it is that would work for you. the material, the structure, the format. I just want to know, what is it that you guys want from this channel? Because I'm transforming too. I don't want to go into, all the details of my own personal chart here, but I am definitely going through this transformation with Pluto and everything that's happening. And so because I'm transforming and you guys are here with me in my community, I want us to transform together. So I really want to hear your feedback on that and what you guys want, okay? So again, with this new moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus in the 6th house of work and body, there is going to be more disruption. And I want to be very honest, because I know that I was expressing a lot of anger recently. And yes, I am very passionate about things that matter to me. And for some people, I think that was something that they wanted to hear, and for other people, it was very, very jarring. And in a sense, it had the feeling of like pushing away instead of inviting. And so I want to be honest about my anger. I think anger is a good emotion. It's fire. It's a fire energy, and it does motivate us to do what we need to do. It's the energy of Mars, and it's also the energy of Pluto, as I showed you in some of my past videos, that Pluto is the phoenix rising out of the ashes. So there's this idea of this sacred fire. And I am 100% in favor of welcoming that fire energy. It serves so many purposes. I think if you think of it as a sacred fire, which you can see in so much archetypal literature, you understand how important that sacred fire is, that energy. And yet, as I said before, if we haven't done our inner work, we may still have some woundedness that gets triggered. And so when that fire energy is burning through us, it can get distorted by any woundedness that we have not healed. So it isn't able to come straight through and ground itself. It gets distorted, and it comes out in distorted ways. And so for me, I think some of the anger that I was expressing wasn't just about things I'm passionate about, but also fear, to be completely honest. And I think it's really important for me to own that in the most honest, authentic way I can. And to say it's okay to feel anger. Absolutely. Like I said, it's just the sacred fire, and it is healthy. But also to acknowledge fear, and to listen to it deeply instead of projecting it outside of you. And that's what I was doing. I was projecting it outside of me. And then I realized I needed to listen to my own message, and to take ownership for that, and to move back into an internal locus of control. So that's how we do transformation. And so that's why I wanted to, be fully honest and authentic about that, so that you could see that is the method of transformation and that's what an awakening is to see, oh, okay, so I was actually had a lot of fear under that anger, and I was projecting it outside of me. And so I stopped and I listened deeply to what was going on inside of me. Not to push the fear away, not to do this thing that's called spiritual bypass, where you pretend like you're not feeling these things. That's why I always welcome anger, the feelings, because fire, yeah, it expresses itself as the feeling of anger. I think sometimes it's better to just experience it as a fire, You know, think of that Mars warrior energy and that fire, and think about Pluto and that sacred fire. And so when Pluto is stationary for 7 days before going retrograde, it's burning in the sacred fire, okay? And this is going to be intense. And then we're going to experience this disruption. And this is going to be upsetting for a lot of people. And that's why I really wanted to work on getting myself grounded, so that not only do I not feel knocked off balance, but that I could also model the teachings for other people. So I'm showing you how you do this, you know, how you do the transformation within yourself. So getting back to this chart, you know, yes, this is going to cause disruption, and I know that's going to bring up fear and anger in people. And so that's why, you know, if we can be as honest as possible about our own feelings of fear and anger and frustration and grief also, then we are able to ground that energy, you know, and to maintain the internal locus of control instead of projecting it outward, and thinking that the government is to blame, or China is to blame, or Donald Trump is to blame, you know, or the Republicans are to blame, or whoever it is that we think is to blame. That doesn't actually get us anywhere, to be completely honest. It feels empowering to blame someone else, but it actually is disempowering. And that's one of the deep spiritual lessons that we learn as we transform. And sometimes we forget, you know, and that's the thing about in a sense, leveling up to a new, higher, more expanded consciousness, where you can see out, you can, like, it's like climbing a mountain and you can see more of the terrain. But the way, when we're shifting consciousness, we actually shift up and down, up and down, up and down, and it kind of ratchets for a while before it lands at that higher level. And so, so that's what I was going through. So that's what I modeled for you. So I know a lot of people found it really disturbing, and I did lose lots of subscribers, but I also kept a lot. And that's where I need to keep my focus, you know, is to remember that the people who are ready to hear this message and work with me in community so that we can together gestate this new warrior self, this new spiritual warrior self over the next 9 months that can handle what's coming. We can do this together. You know, we can create a power with community and create it together and transform together. So that's really exciting. And that's also innovation that comes from Uranus. So Uranus has a shadow and a light side too. All planets do. And the light side of Uranus is that it's innovation. It invents, it inspires, it innovates, and it creates the future. And so there's something really exciting in that too. There's a seed there for the new world that we can create, the new reality that we can create. So that's really exciting. So again, we've got Pluto stationing retrograde in this degree of 24 degrees of Capricorn, 59 minutes for an entire week. And that is such intense energy, and we're already feeling it. And then it's magnified by Jupiter, the expander. But Pallas Athena is also there to help us. She is a warrior goddess, okay? And she's going to help us create as well. And then we've got a trine from Mars to Venus. And Venus is conjunct Vesta, the protector goddess of the home. And this is in the 7th house. So this is a relationship house. This is the people, okay? And so the people are sheltering in place with the goddess Vesta, the protector goddess of the home. So there is some incredible beauty in this chart as well. So Venus there, staying at home with the protector goddess, is in trine to the spiritual warrior. And so this is what we need to do, is we need to understand that Neptune in sextile to these planets over here is calling on us to gestate our spiritual warrior. And that's also the square over here to Mars. Mars is the warrior energy, the fire warrior energy. And that is exactly also the degree where Venus will station retrograde in square to Neptune. So the way to use this energy in the most productive way is to do the spiritual work, to embrace sheltering in place, because that is what the energies are telling us we need to do. It's like it's created this situation for the purpose of forcing the vast majority of the human species to go into spiritual retreat, okay? And so if we're willing to embrace that and see the divine purpose in that, this is part of the hidden purpose, then we can make the most of it. And we can reevaluate our values, which is the purpose of the Neptune opposition here. So some of the other things that are happening in this chart are the Chiron Lilith conjunction in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. And these two asteroids will be in conjunction for quite a while in Aries. They sort of move apart and they come back together. But that energy is also at work here. And then Mercury is also in Aries, conjunct our natal Chiron. And so we may receive some information that could trigger this feeling of wounding, because, you know, Chiron is the wounded healer, but can also trigger a commitment. Vesta is all about commitment to the healing, commitment to becoming the wounded healer, which means we acknowledge our wounding and we transform it in a way that allows us to become healers. And then finally, we look at the North Node here, conjunct Venus at 0 degrees. 0 degrees is a critical degree, okay? 0 degrees and 29 degrees are considered critical degrees. And so the North Node at this critical degree is telling us the secret, the hidden purpose of everything that we are going through right now. And the hidden purpose is that we must reinvent our economy. And here's what I believe, because this is the chart of the United States. And yet, I believe that this truth is actually for the entire world. And the reason why I say that is because I believe that the United States has to be the leader in this. And as you can see from the numbers, if you look at those number counters, you can see that the United States is at the top in terms of the number of cases confirmed, and the deaths are still in Italy and Spain higher than in the United States, but the United States is quickly catching up and will probably surpass. And so we're going to be at the top of all the nations who are hit in a hard way by this experience. And the purpose of that is because it's the United States who needs to wake up more than anyone else on this planet, because we have been the leaders in terms of economics and our economic system, and, you know, spreading that economic system all over the planet. And so if we can change, we can be a leader for the whole world. So that's why the US has been called to do this spiritual work. Okay. Every single person who is a United States citizen or who lives in the United States and, identifies as being part of this country, we're the ones who need to step up to the plate and become leaders in creating this new economy. And so I want to explain the meaning of the North Node and the critical degree and Venus and the houses that this is in, because these are the resource houses, the money houses, the currency houses, the houses of the economy, finances, anything to do with finances, anything to do with money and currency, anything to do with economics, anything to do with resources. That is in the 2nd and 8th house axis. And that's where all of this is happening. And so it is calling for transformation. And Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's also the planet of birth and death, and spiritual transformation, and it's the planet of wealth and power. And these are all the things that are being called to transform. And so it's happening in these houses. And Venus is being activated by this North Node. The North Node is the direction of our evolution at a critical degree. And Venus rules the 2nd house. She rules our finances, our economy, our material well-being. And this is calling for us to transform the direction of this is the direction of our evolution. It is calling us to transform our economic system, our financial system, everything, our currency, the way we use resources, because it has gotten to the point where it has become deadly, and maybe some people don't see that, but there are enough people on this planet who see it, and they know that that is true. And I tried to say that multiple times, that to have an economy based on infinite growth, when you live on a finite planet, and we are seeing the damage that is doing, to continue that is literal insanity. It is like committing slow suicide. And but we're going to take down the whole planet, because actually we are the planet. We're the neural networks, the consciousness, the brain of the planet. The planet is our body. And, so we're addicts, basically. And if you've ever seen an addict, like meth addict, cocaine addict, heroin addict, alcoholic, when they're going down, they're committing suicide. It's happened slowly, but it does happen, and that's what we've become. We're addicts. We're like one big massive addict floating in space, and that's the call to wake up, like what it takes to for an addict to wake up. It takes hitting rock bottom. And and different people have different rock bottoms. Some people never hit their rock bottom. They die before they ever hit their rock bottom. And I'm hoping that that's not what it will take for us. So, and I'm not, am I saying that out of fear? I don't think so. I really think that, I've looked at this objectively for decades, and I've believed it for decades. And I really thought that humanity would not take the steps to make the transformation, that we would just stay on this high-speed train until we hit a wall and crashed. Or like the Titanic, you know, when we finally realized we had to turn the ship around, it would be too late. And we would just have to face the consequences. And that saddened me. But this has given me hope that we can actually take this opportunity to make the transformation before it's too late, before we have to face those horrific consequences. And I believe that that is the hidden purpose in all of this, you know, and to me, this is proof. The North Node in 0 degrees right over Venus in these second and eighth house axis. To me, that is proof, and everything else that's happening, you know, that you can see in the chart. So the next thing I want to show you is another piece of the puzzle that I believe is also proof. So again, keep in mind this North Node at 0 degrees. The North Node is karmic. It means the direction of our evolution, okay? So the next chart I bring up is going to show you that the new moon eclipse on June 20th and 21st, because it crosses over at midnight, so it depends on where you're located. That new moon eclipse happens right here at 0 degrees of Cancer, right where this node is at this time, okay? That critical degree. So let me go ahead and bring that chart up real quick so you can take a look at that. And also note that there is a mystic rectangle in the midst of this as well. So there is the supportive mystic rectangle as we go through this process. It's notice how it's like encapsulated in that. I think that's really fascinating, like it's holding us while we do this transformational work. So at the time of the new moon eclipse, at this critical 0 degrees of Cancer where the North Node was, this is now a total new moon eclipse at the most critical degrees possible, 0 degrees and 29 degrees. And it's right over Venus. So something is definitely coming, but we need to be a part of creating that. And I'll explain why as I move, after I explain this chart, then we'll move to the inauguration chart, because I think that for me, that's when we hit the crossroads. We're actually already at the crossroads, but that's the moment when everything comes to bear. And that's why I think we have 9 months to gestate our warrior selves, to be able to deal with what is coming, and to be able to not only keep ourselves grounded and centered, but to help others stay grounded and centered, so that we can move in a direction that allows us to create this new economic system that will have the love that Venus holds, and love of humanity, love of the planet, love of all the species. And, you know, so we need to bring our best selves to that. Okay, so at the time of this new moon eclipse, total new moon eclipse at these critical degrees, you can see here that Saturn is now retrograde at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So Saturn is at this critical degree as well, forming a quincunx up here to the total new moon eclipse at these critical degrees. And a quincunx means you reap what you sow, okay? So that's why we need to sow good seeds at this time with this new moon eclipse in these critical degrees. And all of these planets are now retrograde, which is forcing us to go, continue to go back and reconsider the things that we have done, and to continue to go inward, That's why I don't believe that I don't believe we'll be coming out of isolation, out of this isolation, out of this sheltering in place. I think that this will continue for quite a few months, and because the spiritual work needs to happen, and that's the only way that, I guess that's the only way that these divine forces could see to help us to wake up and to change. And so at the time of this June new moon eclipse, not only are they all retrograde, but we're going to see the second Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And that one will be retrograde on June 30th. And so again, you know, I believe that this is about each and every one of us deciding how we are going to bring ourselves into the community marketplace to contribute and to receive what we need for our well-being. And this isn't about money. It's about, it is about wealth, but it's not about money. It's about currency. What I talked about in my video, valuing your life energy, and what currency really is. It's actually energy. It's not the money or the coins or the digital, you know, blips that we see in our bank accounts online. It's the energy that we exchange. And so the universe and divine intelligence is calling on us to bring our best selves into the marketplace. And the way that we contribute, the way that we share our life energy, and the way that we receive needs to come from love, as opposed to greed and addiction. Needs to come from love and trust and abundance, and not from fear and greed and addiction. Okay, so we each need to figure out how we're going to do that. And then over here we have Mars and Neptune. And again, if we use this in a spiritual way, as it squares Mars, we have the opportunity to remove and release the boundaries, okay? Now, the shadow side of that is not knowing what is true. And I think that if we can be comfortable with not knowing all the facts, such as we don't really know where this virus came from. A lot of people have opinions, and some people are dead sure that they know what the truth is. I personally think it's better to let that question go and instead ask, what is the spiritual meaning of this experience? Because if we do that, instead of arguing about what the facts are, when clearly we're in a state of reality in which we don't know what the facts are. That's what the Neptune-Mars conjunction square Mars is. It's missing information. It's not knowing what the truth is. But if we can let go of that and instead look for the spiritual meaning, then we can evolve. And because the evolution has to do with the spiritual and energetic level of consciousness. It doesn't have to do with deciding what the facts are, who's right, who's wrong, who's to blame, how, you know, who's going to fix this. If we can let go of those questions and instead ask, how do I need to transform? How do I need to show up to create this new world? Then we will get the benefit of the light side of this Mars conjunction to Neptune squaring Mars, because it removes all the whole problem with the so-called fake news and all of this has to do with Neptune right now. It is dissolving the boundaries of reality. And instead of fighting that, if we can actually learn to live in the unknown and just touch in with the energy of love, and trust, then we can use the removal of the boundaries of reality to open our minds to all kinds of new visions for the future and to be creative and innovative. So the work of Neptune and Uranus at this time is to help us to do that, to help us let go of the old and invite in the new. But we don't yet know what the new is. It's unformed, but we can envision it. That's what it wants us to do. Instead of fighting about what the facts are, who screwed up, that is such a waste of energy. And that's why, you know, when I saw myself transforming, that's when I knew I needed to stop with that. I needed to stop pointing fingers and blaming. And that's why I said, you know, that I think maybe I was projecting when I kept saying that. I needed to hear that message. And I finally did hear it. But that was part of my transformation, is to recognize that pointing fingers and blaming and shaming and guilt tripping is the absolute wrong direction for us to move in. That will take us down a very, very dark path, in my opinion. And the way to move toward a new vision and a new world that we can create together is to let go of that blaming and let go of trying to figure out who, you know, what went wrong and who's to blame and all that. And instead, just focus on a vision for the future. That's where we can put our energy. Okay, so at the time of this June new moon eclipse, Venus is still retrograde, but she's retrograde at 5 degrees, which means she's actually stationary direct. She is ready to go direct. And when she goes direct, then everything we learned first when she was in her shadow, when she was direct, and then when she went retrograde, and now she's going direct again over those same degrees. This is the integration period where we integrate what we have learned during that time, okay? And again, I believe that this will be a time of sheltering in place and the spiritual retreat, okay? The solitude and spiritual retreat and sheltering in place. And so once she goes direct, then we're going to move toward the integration of what we have learned during that time. And we have the total new moon eclipse in the critical degrees right over Venus in the 8th house, which is a resource house, finance house, currency, money, everything, the economy, all of that stuff. We need to create something new with this total new moon eclipse in the critical degrees over Venus in the 8th house. And by the way, Pluto also rules the 8th house. So this is a mega transformation that we're going through. Okay, so that covers those two charts. And then I want to take you forward again to the Inauguration Day chart, because I believe that this is the key to understanding everything, in my opinion. And so notice here the square and the conjunction of Mars and Uranus, with the moon also moving into conjunction. And then we have these planets over here. And we actually have some warrior goddess asteroids and such in the mix as well. So I am going to bring this chart up with the first with the United States chart that we were just looking at. So let me pull that up. Actually, I think we'd want it over here. Put the United States in the middle, and we'll see how the Inauguration Day alignments land on the Declaration of Independence. Okay, so what we see here is that Pluto is still moving toward its Pluto return for our nation, which, as I showed you, we're actually going to see it unfold over the next 3 years, okay? And then we can also see the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Pallas Athena, and Mercury all down here. And they're forming a conjunction to the south node, which is something that needs to be released. And these planets over here, the Mars-Uranus conjunction at the time of the inauguration day, with the moon moving into the mix and with Lilith there, this is what I'm calling the revolution, okay? Because it's forming a T-square with the nodes, okay? And what I found really interesting in my research was that there's something else really important happening here. But before I talk about the nodes and why this T-square is so important, I also want to point something out, which is that how, you know, these warrior goddesses are just showing up in such amazing ways. I mean, look at this. Juno is moving into conjunction with our nation's ascendant. And, okay, Venus is opposite the sun at this time, and she's going to move into conjunction with Pluto. And again, she is the ruler of the second house. And over here, we have all of these planets conjunct the south node. And there's Pallas Athena right in the mix. And then over here, we have Ceres conjunct Neptune. And it's opposite Vesta up here, which is conjunct Neptune. And again, this is about all of us reevaluating what matters to us. You know, what are our values going to be? We are reassessing that. And then over here with the Mars-Uranus conjunction, we have the moon and Lilith. And then over here we have the north node conjunct Mars, also forming a square to this opposition. So we actually have two T-squares, two super, super important T-squares in this chart. And so I do see this energy as a battle. And I think that it will actually erupt. It will literally erupt on Inauguration Day. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that the moon and Mars are what we consider faster moving planets. The moon is actually the fastest moving cosmic body in the zodiac. And Mars is also an inner planet, so it is considered one of the faster moving planets. And so and Mars is the activator. So when you have Mars and the moon in this activation of the Uranus-Lilith energy, then I think it's safe to say, especially because it's literally on Inauguration Day, I think it's safe to say that this is literally the day that this energy combusts, okay? And so that's 9 months from now. And so we have 9 months to gestate new selves, to be able to show up for whatever is coming. And I do believe it's actually going to erupt on Inauguration Day. And we need to have ourselves extremely grounded and centered because this energy is going to be so incredibly potent. And there are going to be so many people out there who are just going berserk with fear and rage, okay? And we need to be a stabilizing force. That's why every single day between now and Inauguration Day is essential. And, you know, another person posted a comment on one of my videos that said, you're using fear to try to motivate people to change. And, you know, and I thought, I really do need to own my fear, okay? Instead of projecting it. And it's not that I want to scare people into changing. It's that I actually you know, I guess maybe the most honest thing I can say is I actually do have fear. Um, when I look at this, I think that it that there's a crossroads, and depending on how this incredibly potent energy is directed, um, that it could be very, it could be very scary, and I think that if I'm not honest about that, then I have done my viewers a disservice. So again, I'm trying to work through my own feelings. That's part of my transformation. That's part of modeling what that looks like. You know, it's not spiritual bypass and pretending like I don't feel these things, like pretending that these things that we don't experience them as very real. We do. When we're incarnated in this physical reality, it feels very real, even though on another level of consciousness, it's all an illusion. But when we see people suffering, we feel that as very, very real. And I think it's more important to just be honest about it, about what I feel, what I think, what I believe. And those people who take this message and want to work with me in this 9-month gestation period. And I mean, truly, truly forming a community, you know, a power with community, because that is modeling the new kind of reality that I would like to be a part of creating. So, so I want to hear your thoughts, you know, do you want to show up for this gestation project? And if so, what would work for you? What would benefit you? You know, like I said, what kind of structures, whether that be, you know, videos that I do, what kind of videos, what kind of information do you want to see? What length do you want to see? How often do you want to see them? Or also, you know, live streaming, and what kind of live streaming, when would work best for you to do live streaming, or also Zoom meetings, live Zoom meetings. Those would not be able to, I wouldn't be able to invite, you know, hundreds of people or thousands of people, but it might be possible to do small group sessions where we're all, you know, we're all live and we can all speak at the same time, not just chat, but actual speaking our voices into the circle. So you guys, and things that I haven't even thought of, you know, so you guys need to let me know. Do you want to be a part of this gestation project? And if so, what do you envision would best serve you, as far as the structures and the material, and how we can all work in community together to empower ourselves and empower each other? I'm super excited about that. I think that gives me more hope than anything else. So, so this was the first thing I wanted to show you, that this is what I call the revolutionary energy, but it's forming a T-square to the nodes here. And again, I think that this is the release of the old, okay? The old guard, the old ways that aren't working anymore, that we need to shed, like Phoenix rising out of the ashes, or like a butterfly molting in a cocoon and then shedding that cocoon. That's what this south node is about. The north node is the direction of our evolution, but what is really strange about this is I discovered that all three of the potential candidates for president have their Pluto very close to the north node. So I'm going to show you that, and I'll start with Donald Trump, and then we'll look at both Bernie and Joe Biden, because, you know, I think it's pretty safe to say that those are the three potential candidates for president. So those are the three potential people who could be, you know, doing their thing on Inauguration Day. So, okay, here we are. And we have the Inauguration Day alignments on Donald Trump's chart. So again, this is the energy that I'm calling the revolution. and it's squaring his Pluto. Okay, but note that you know, the north node of the United States chart is at 6 degrees of Leo, and his Pluto is at 10 degrees of Leo. And while it may be true that this energy of the Mars Uranus Moon conjunction will make the exact square to the north node of the Declaration of Independence, it's also definitely squaring Donald Trump's Pluto. And what that means is that his power is in question, okay? This is kind of like a standoff. It's, you know, I don't really know what is the exact right language to use to explain all of this. But some of the language that I think makes sense is definitely to say this is the revolution, this is revolutionary energy. It's squaring off against power, the power of the United States, the power of these three men, all three of them. That's why I said it actually doesn't matter who wins the election. This energy is going to erupt regardless of who becomes president. And I also think it may be possible that we might not even know who the president is come Inauguration Day. And that might be part of what triggers this revolution. But I think it's not just the questioning of the validity of the elections, assuming they even, you know, happen, assuming we actually have a clear winner. I don't think we can even assume that. So, so this revolutionary energy is questioning authority, absolutely questioning authority. And there is a purpose for this, okay? It's not about whether Donald Trump is right or wrong. It's not about whether Joe Biden is right or wrong. It's not about whether Bernie is right or wrong. And I know there are going to be a lot of people who hear me say that and get so pissed off that they actually will unsubscribe from my channel because they are absolutely convinced that it is going to be Joe Biden, or it's going to be Bernie, or it has to be Joe Biden, or it has to be Bernie, and it absolutely cannot be Donald Trump. But I have to speak what I believe is true, that it actually doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Bernie. No matter who it is, this revolution is happening for some reason. I think it's partly because of the collapse of the economy, because, you know, I know a lot of people, what they're really, really longing for, at least this is my belief, what they're really, really longing for is for someone like a psychic or an astrologer or a tarot reader to tell them when this is going to end and go back to the way it used to be. And that's why I kept saying over and over and over again, it's not going to end anytime soon. And it's not ever, 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 ever going back to the way it used to be. But that can also be seen as something beautiful and wonderful and exciting and empowering, because that means that we get to create something new. And that's why we need to gestate our new selves, to be able to show up at the highest level of consciousness that we are capable of gestating in the next 9 months, to help create this new world, this new reality. Okay? But again, with the square at 6 degrees, making an exact square to the north node of the United States, and making a square to Donald Trump's Pluto at 10 degrees of Leo, questioning his authority. This T-square is absolutely questioning his authority. But what we will discover is that we see the exact same thing on both Biden and Bernie's chart. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next one. Okay, so this is Biden's chart, and you can see you can actually see the T square here, and so it's squaring his Pluto at 7 degrees, and it's interesting to see that he has Pallas Athena and Vesta over here. But anyway, it's squaring his his Pluto, just like with the North Node in the Declaration of Independence, and just like with Donald Trump's Pluto in the first decan of Leo. This revolutionary energy is squaring authority, power and authority, questioning power and authority. And there's a reason for it. And I think we can make some pretty good guesses. But it has something to do with a much larger picture. It's not about any individual. It's not about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Bernie. And again, I know a lot of people are going to get infuriated by that and unsubscribe, but I have to tell you the truth, that it literally has nothing to do with the individual personality. It has to do with questioning authority in general. And so no matter who is our president on Inauguration Day, there is going to be a massive revolt, rebellion, revolution, okay? No matter who is president, this is going to happen. That's why, again, I'm wondering if it's because we actually will not have, we either won't have an election this year, or the election will not reveal who the true president is supposed to be. And that may be why it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump, Biden, or Bernie, because these people will be questioning that authority, questioning that power and authority, no matter who it is, because something went wrong with the elections. And it's interesting too with Biden that he actually has a grand cross, not just a T-square with this revolutionary energy questioning his power and authority, but he actually has a T-square with Mars on the other side. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if you guys are going to join me in this. I don't know how many of you are going to join me in this, but I'm doing it. No matter, even if I have to do it all by myself, I have to gestate a new warrior self with a higher level of consciousness to be able to deal with this. Because when I look at this, it stops my heart, you know, and I don't want to feed fear into the world. I really, really don't. But if it does that to me, I know I have to do my inner work. I have to do that for the next 9 months. That has to be my number one job, even if I have to do it all by myself. But I am really, really hoping that you guys are going to join me in a community and help create this work together. Okay, and then the very last one that I will pull up will be the chart with the Inauguration Day on Bernie's natal chart. So you can see all the red straight down to Pluto. So it's the same issue with him. There's Pluto. He's actually got a Pluto-Chiron conjunction, which I find interesting. But you can see this revolutionary energy is squaring to him too. It's forming a T-square to his Pluto as well. So yeah, his alignments do appear more gentle. You notice that he has this really strong grand air trine, and that the opposite energy for him is actually this goddess energy. So I suspect that he will not be the one that all this energy is directed toward. It will more likely be Biden and Trump. Because of the fact that it seems most likely that those are the two that will be running against each other. And so it will create factions where no matter who is standing up there on Inauguration Day, this energy is going to erupt. But again, I think it may be because we might not even know who the president is supposed to be. So no matter who it is, that authority is being questioned in this T-square. So we see it happening on the chart of the United States, the North Node at 6 degrees. We see it happening with Bernie, with his Pluto at 5 degrees of Leo, and we see it happening with Donald Trump with his Pluto at 10 degrees, and we see it happening with Biden with his Pluto at 7 degrees, okay? So the reason why I say that this looks more gentle to me is because I think that he's not going to be so much in the crosshairs. He may come out as a leader, but I don't think this energy is going to be directed at him quite as intensely as Biden and Trump. All right. And again, I think that's because he won't actually be the presumptive candidate or the declared candidate for the Democratic Party, which I know a lot of people are going to be really angry at me for saying that. But I just, what can I say? I mean, what good does it do for me to tell you things that I don't believe are true just to make you feel happy, I mean, these are hard realities that we have to face in here. And again, I'm really not trying to push fear. I'm simply trying to get us to look at what's here, and tell the truth about what I see and what I think we need to do to show up for this energy. But again, like I said, I'm going to do it no matter whether I have to do it by myself or in community, because I don't want to show up on Inauguration Day feeling the way I've been feeling lately. I want to be able to transform my fear and my anger into something that can help, that can remain steady and grounded and centered and help other people to guide them toward a better future that we can all envision together if we all do this work together and create power with. All right, so I know this video is long, and some people have been complaining your videos have gotten so long, and can you possibly make them shorter? And believe me, if I could figure out a way to convey this information in sound bites, I would do it. But this is not a soundbite reality. This is the divine energies calling on us to do deep transformational work. And so again, if any of you out there who made it all the way to the end of this video, then I'm guessing it's because you are ready to hear this message. You are ready to show up for this this gestation project, 9 months of gestating our spiritual warrior selves and our highest consciousness that we are capable of evolving to in the next 9 months. So again, I really, really, really want to hear your feedback about that. I want to hear what's going to work for you in terms of how I structure this, the kinds of videos I'm putting out, the kinds of information I'm putting out, whether or not to do live streaming, what time of day would work best for you, what days would work best for you, or to do Zoom, and to invite a small group of people. Usually with Zoom, it doesn't work. I don't think it works well if you do more than a dozen people. So they would have to be small groups to do it that way. So I think that's about, and then anything else you guys can think of, please share your ideas so we can do this together. All right, so that's it for today. And I am feeling so much more hopeful now. I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can about my feelings and really own them and not project them out into the world, but take back my power and my internal locus of control by owning my feelings and giving myself empathy, and not trying to do spiritual bypass where I pretend like I'm above it all, like I'm not human, like I don't have real feelings, you know. I just can't go there. All right, so so that's it for today, and I look forward to all of your comments, and I love you all. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.